Let's be honest. We've all had those days where we feel like we don't have our lives together. But under the surface, we're just trying to figure it out one step at a time. This is what we'll discuss in this week's episode. Let's unpack it.
Welcome back. This is Johnny, aka DarkHorseJohnny. So the question of the week is, why do I think that somebody else has it all figured out and I don't? Well, the answer to that question, as I'm sitting here, or just before I hit record, I'm like, I don't believe that to be true. I don't believe that anybody has it figured out. But before we start spiraling off into, well, what are we talking about here? Let's just look at it as when you look at somebody and you think that, hey, look at that person, right? We could be driving in our car, they're driving a Corvette, and we think, look at that person, they've got it all figured out. And at the end of the day, yeah, maybe they're driving a Corvette. Maybe if you dig in deeper, they live in a beautiful multi-million-dollar home and, have a good six-figure job and all that stuff. But I guarantee they don't have it all figured out. So what are we talking about here? So I'll use the analogy that I gave in my last answering of the question period there, is I look at a runner and thinking like, oh my gosh, look at some of those elite runners. They've got it all figured out. Like, how's that possible? I don't even know what I'm doing. I just ran 100 meters and almost, collapsed. But see, that's the thing, is they had to do that at one part of their lives too. When they first started, hey, I'm going to get serious about running, right? They started, and they may have ran over 100 meters, but they started. And what they did is they kept continuing day after day to run, adding more, distance, faster. Started to try to research and figure out what other people are doing and how they got faster. So that's what the question is really asking, is when we're sitting there looking at somebody, and from our perception, is they're above of what we think we're capable of. And there's the crux of it right there, is we're capable of a lot of things, right? And you'll hear people saying, well, yeah, that's true, but to a limit. And I totally believe that people that believe they can and the people that believe they can't are both correct, right? So the people that say, hey, they can, they're going to be able to do it, or have a better chance of making that statement truer. And the people that say they can't, well, they can't because they never get started, right? So they're just telling themselves, I can't. And that's what's holding them back, and that's what holds us all back. So I don't have it figured out. I'm just starting this YouTube journey. I have no idea, necessarily what I'm doing, but at the same time, I do have, from watching other people and seeing what's out there, is that, hey, you know what? My lane's going to be as being as authentic as I can and just speak, from the heart and whatever comes to mind. And, some of the past stories that I have, I love to tell, and I love going in behind the meaning of them all. So like somebody that's, say on the platform that we're here today on, is there's some really successful people, and they've worked hard. And I know if you dug all the way back to their origin stories, that, they started out, just like me, or maybe just like you. And it doesn't have to be on a platform. Again, it can be anything in life, a job or anything. And, everybody has a unique story of how they got there. So at the end of the day, again, is to answer this the best I can, is to start. It's always about that, is to start. What's on your mind right now? What am I saying right now that you can think of? And just sit with it and say, hey, I think such and such is got that all figured out and I don't. Why? Just go ask the person. Just say, hey, my name's Johnny. I've noticed that you worked on this project and it's like you've got it all figured out. And I'm sure once you start that conversation, I'm going to say, yeah, well, this has taken years of, failing to grow. And that's what it's all about, is to try something, maybe get pushed back a couple steps, but then you'll move up a step, and then another step, and then another step, and you may come back down a step, and you keep going. And as long as you're open to those criticisms or those suggestions and say, okay, you know what? I get that. You can move forward with them. And that's one of the things that I think we all fail or forget to think about in our lives. People just didn't wake up and have a magical job or a magical I know everything. Some of those people, yeah, it's pure luck, or they've inherited money because their parents or their grandparents, or they have generational wealth, if we're talking about that. And it looks from the outside, from all their materialism and things that they have, that they've got it all figured out, but they have nothing. There's some people that you'll run into where, you'd think they'd have nothing figured out, but they have a lot more figured out than some of the other people. So again, it's these stories that we tell ourselves, and we get caught up in that and assuming things. So until you really have these conversations or thought-provoking thoughts, then we'll always get stuck in that, gosh, that person has it figured out, why don't I? Or why does this always happen to me? Why can't I keep getting ahead? Instead, you should be asking yourself, well, how do I become that person that I perceive as having it all figured out? And that's the key. But most of us, including myself, just stop there. We would just look at that and go, yeah, they've got it all figured out, and woe is me, I'm so woe. And it's tough, because there was a point in my life that I was considered myself, now looking back, I was a part of that cohort of people that was like, had successes here and there, as what I would call successes in my own mind, and other ones is like, why do I feel like I'm behind, and why are other people looking to be ahead? And really, it's just a perception, and that's all that it is. So we all have our talents, and we all have our different subtle quirks about us that sometimes we don't allow to come out of ourselves, and we don't pursue those things because maybe hey, life's tough, right? You got to go to work, you got to do all these things that you're being told to do, and you don't take time for yourself. And that's important. You got to take time for yourself and not necessarily worry about other people having it all figured out. Why don't you just pick something, just one thing, and see if you can figure out that? And maybe it's a puzzle, right? That simple puzzle, 1,000-piece puzzle, and you get it all together. And somebody walks and goes, holy, how'd you figure that out? And you would just laugh, well, through a lot of frustration and time, but eventually the pieces were all put together. So I'll leave you with this, with that puzzle problem there, is how do you take those puzzle pieces of your life so you can perceive yourself of having it figured out? All right, till next time, peace out.